All right. So for some time now, the well-known general, I guess we can call him general or cupbearer, as the Bible says, general by the name of Nehemiah has been on my mind. That book of the Bible is a book I frequent from time to time, and the reason I frequent the book is because Nehemiah is not only a famous leader in the Bible, but he gives us a number of points to learn from and live by. So here are a few of those leadership lessons. I wanted to go over those. It's a refresher for me and probably a refresher for most of you all too. I say that because Nehemiah is a book that's covered quite a bit um, in the local synagogues and churches. So let's take a quick dive into Nehemiah. Give me 5 or 10 minutes and we'll be done. So it's a short one today. So when we first come up on Nehemiah, I take, or I don't want to say first, but in the beginning of Nehemiah's book, of his story that's been recorded for us to read throughout the generations. When we come upon Nehemiah early, we learn a few leadership lessons. Now let's look at one of the first one. One of the first leadership lessons we get from Nehemiah is that he told the king his plans and he had a timeline for those plans. Okay. First things first, Nehemiah told the king his plans and he had a timeline for those plans. So that means he went away by himself, thought through his objectives, set his intentions, more than likely prayed to the Lord, and then created these plans to do some good work. And he created a timeline for those plans. So he had some structure, didn't he? He had some structure. Leadership lesson number one. Leadership lesson number two. When Nehemiah went to the king with his plans, he knew how much money he needed to finish his work. So he had a budget. He knew how much money he needed to finish his work. So he had a budget. He had plans, he had timelines, and he had a budget. Now, in the modern day, we might say estimates. Estimates are good too. But have something. Make sure you have something when we're talking about leadership. And this goes in a family, in a nonprofit, at the job you work at, if you're an employee, or even if you're starting your own company. Have a plan. We're talking about leadership here. This also goes in the realm of youth sports. Youth sports, you need plans, you need timelines, you need funds to help the youth. This goes anywhere. That's why I love the book of Nehemiah. This is just leadership cut and dry. Very good book on leadership. Right in the Bible for all of us to see. Now, when we talk about Nehemiah and him arriving to the king and speaking with the king, I want to add this. He did not have all of the money up front to complete his goal, but he did know that God would support him. One more time. When Nehemiah requested funds to accomplish his objective, to complete his intentions, okay, he did not have all the money up front, okay, but he knew God would support him. There is a big project I'm working on right now. Fortune 500 companies are involved, and I do not have all the money up front, but I do believe in God, and I do believe that he will support me and support our group in the endeavor we're working on. Now, there are a few more things we can take from Nehemiah. Let me make this quick so I don't tell a lie or a fib. I said we only be here 5-10 minutes. The other thing is that, let me repeat one more time. Make your plans crystal clear. Make them as crystal clear as you can. Before I move on, I want to make sure I drill this in. Most people do not like scattered plans, especially if you're an employee, you have a manager, a supervisor, or you're going to the CEO or CFO. Most people do not like scattered plans. So make sure your plans are crystal clear. Okay. As clear as you can make them. Nehemiah had a timeline. He thought ahead and had a plan for the people. He knew the amount of money he needed. And these are what we call estimates. Okay. Now moving forward. Another thing we can learn from Nehemiah is that when he began his project, okay, when he began his project and he had to travel, okay, so take that into account sometimes, you leaders out there. But when Nehemiah began his project to rebuild the wall for his people and for the Lord, he only took a few people with him. Now, isn't that stunning? So that means he didn't go on, they didn't have it at the time, but he didn't go on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, what we call it X now, right? And he didn't go, he didn't run a TMZ and go light up the universe and tell everybody everything that was going on. No. In the beginning, he only took a few people with him, and he took people that could help him complete his mission. This didn't mean he only took family members or friends he grew up with. No. Now, is a family member bad or a friend you grew up with bad? No. But I'm saying out of the group he took with him, they weren't just his family members. They weren't just the friends he grew up with in kindergarten or elementary school. These were people who could help him complete his objective and the objective God had given him. He was there to complete an objective. He was there to work. He needed people with the right abilities to help him. And he needed people who were tactful, right? If he didn't go on Instagram, if he didn't go on Facebook or Meta and release a bunch of information, he needed people who could keep their mouth closed. And in the modern day, it's hard to find people who can keep their mouth closed. Okay. And finally, not only did Nehemiah bring people who were essential to his job, okay, essential to his job, the final thing I want to remind you is that when we try to build something or when we try to do something good, for some reason, conflict occurs. Okay? So don't be surprised when conflict occurs. When you try to build something great or when you try to do something good for others, your community, your society, for some reason, the weeds spring up. The weeds will spring up, so don't be surprised. It can throw you off sometimes because you think, aren't I doing something good for society? Aren't I doing something good for people? Aren't I doing something good for the Lord? There is always conflict. There is always conflict. The conflict may come from your inner circle, which is terrible, or a conflict may come from an exterior group. One more time. The conflict may come from your inner circle. Let me add something to that. The conflict may come from you, or the conflict may come from an exterior group. In Nehemiah's case, the battle came from an external source. Okay? The battle came from an external source in Nehemiah's case. But sometimes it can come from you. I was going over some notes from a book I read a while back, years ago, called The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galloway. And what we learn in that book is that there are some things that could hamper your progress. And those are just personal things, right? So some of those things Timothy Galloway writes about in his book is that our self-concept can affect us, right? And how well we progress or how well we do in life. He talks about things like self-doubt. He talked about things like tension and anxiousness in his book as well, okay? So I want you to make sure you take those things into account too. So conflict that occurs when we try to do something good or we try to build something great, there are inner circle conflicts. There are exterior conflicts, And there are those conflicts you have with yourself, your self-esteem, your self-concept, your self-doubt, your tension, your unbelief. All these things affect you in attempting to do something great or build something great. So, for the rest of the week, for all you leaders out there that are listening to me and all those leaders out there that are in the process of transforming themselves or stepping into that new leadership role, okay? I want you to think about these things. Please read the book of Nehemiah. It has so many golds of truth. It has so much wisdom. And do what Nehemiah did, okay? Do what Nehemiah did. That means have clear plans, have structured plans, go to the Lord, seek his wisdom, have a small team, be quiet, and as always, expect conflict.